speak and provide the consultancy for regional and the theatre by doing the English adaptations. Okay? And the speaker has a diverse interest in the music and the cinema. Okay? And so role taken, the special education session. Today we have decoding the mind block sessions. So I am pleased to welcome Suresh Madhav sir on the stage.
Right. Can you all see me, hear me right there in the back? Right? How are you guys doing, by the way? Good? Right? You people, can you see me? I know it's a very counterintuitive question because with this dim lighting and the person with such a robust complexion, you may not be able to see me. So I suggest that some of you all move your chair here because that big pillar is blocking you all. I can help you if you wish. If you can come closer. You can come a little closer. What about the lady, the Chetna? How are you? Yeah, right? All right. Okay. This stuff. All right, let's go. Put the slides on, please. All the slides on, all the slides on. It's on, off. I'll give you a cue as to when I'll do the slides. Right. If your greatest fear about speaking in public is all about forgetting your lines and going blank in front of a crowd, then there's something really crucial I'd like you all to understand. This could most probably happen to you at some point. Did your heart skip a beat just thinking about such a scenario? Did you worry, oh my goodness, will this happen to me? And what am I going to do if such a thing happens? How will I recover? Will I lose my credibility in a split second? After years of having worked as a corporate executive and after having delivered countless numbers of presentations, pitches, and training programs, I can tell you that I've had more than my fair share of going blank in front of huge crowds and literally having a meltdown. Now, some of those moments were awkward and some of them were memorable. Though I must confess, most of them were awkward. When it comes to keeping your credibility, it all comes down to how well you can prepare for a presentation, and more important, how quickly you can recover in case there is a mishap on stage. One of the primary reasons we tend to go blank is what we're going to look at now. Can we have the first slide, please? Nervousness and excitement are two sides of the same coin. Yeah, you can turn it off. Nervousness and excitement are two sides of the same coin. What does this mean? One of the most important things to remember right from the start is to know or to understand that your audience will not care about you until they know that you care about them. This is very important to remember. So prepare well with your research, with your presentation, before you actually go on to do it. This is a fundamental thing to learn right at the top of the gate. Then the other thing which the other question which comes up here is that why do we get nervous? Why do we get nervous? We get nervous for many reasons. When we put ourselves out there on the stage, there is no guarantee whether or not we'll forget our lines and go blank. When we become anxious, our body's fight or flight response takes over. Adrenaline gets released as our body prepares to combat our perceived threats. And we might feel threatened for a variety of reasons. We might feel that the audience is expecting a meltdown any time now, and they're just waiting for it, or some of them are praying that it doesn't happen. Or we could feel threatened because a previous failure or a previous mishap in front of a crowd has left us completely traumatized, and that trauma, that feeling still lingers in our mind. Which is why we feel the physical symptoms, which is why we feel our throats going dry, our voices shaking, our palms sweating, and let's not forget the profuse sweating which everybody else in the room can see. Having our minds going blank is a common thing for all the speakers. I said it's a common thing for all the speakers. My mentor, Matthew, is here. He will tell me, never say that. Don't say it's for all the speakers, so I'll very quickly take that back and reframe it and say, having our minds go blank is a common thing for most speakers, not every speaker. It's a common thing for most speakers. We put in all the hard work, rehearse our lines, prepare for a delivery, and try to get our messaging right, but yet we become a nervous wreck the minute that we come up on stage. Why? Why is that? Perhaps it is because we are concerned only about how we are coming across to our audience. That is one of the reasons we have these symptoms. So how can we calm our nerves? And how can we speak confidently that the next time we're asked to speak? How can we connect with our audience at a deeper level the next time we come up on stage? Well, consider these 5 points which I've put together after a little bit of research, and I'll share them with you. So I'll go back to the first slide, which is nervousness and excitement. Yeah, there's no need to, yeah, you can switch this off and touch that, so that they've already seen that. So it's important to remember right from the beginning that your audience will not care about you until they know you care about them. Before even thinking about what you're going to do or how you're going to recover when there is a mishap on stage, it helps to focus your mindset on a preventative approach rather than trying to set things right. Because nerves are normal. It can happen to, again, Matthew's here, it can happen to some of us. And your nervous energy can actually be your ally to amplify your speech, your delivery. If you're not nervous, while I was doing research for this, I spoke to a lot of people, and I spoke to a lot of stand-up comedians. I spoke to my friends in the theater. I spoke to a handful of keynote speakers, and one of the keynote speakers I spoke to was Matthew Verghese. This was almost around 4 or 5 months back, right, Matthew? And what Matthew told me was that if you're not nervous, that can also backfire. Because if you come on stage and you project an attitude of indifference, or you appear very smug, or you have a couldn't care less kind of an attitude, that can backfire against you, because it might lead your audience to think that you're not emotionally invested in your own words. So that is a dangerous thing. So I'm not recommending that you must become nervous, but going nervous is quite common. Can we have the next slide, please? The one before this. Alison? Yeah, this is Professor Dr. Alison Wood Brooks. Good-looking lady, isn't she? Right. Dr. Alison Wood Brooks says, she's done a very fascinating study, and she explains that she explains the reasons behind anxiety-producing situations, and she says one of the best ways to overcome this is to reframe or recalibrate your nervousness as excitement. The rock musician Bruce Springsteen, before he went up on stage, he usually spikes himself up and he turns his nervousness into excitement, and that helps him give out a really pulsating performance. So this is out there in the public domain. So if you can recalibrate or reframe your nerves as energy, it will help you enhance your presentation. Then point number 2, preparation. Yeah, we can turn the slide off now. Now this is really a no-brainer, isn't it? Preparation. If I told you that you have to prepare well to do a decent preparation, that is a no-brainer, I think. But nevertheless, I'll say it again. Prepare well for your presentation. Good preparation is kryptonite to that nervous energy, and it can help you manage your nerves better. And the best way to manage your nerves is to becoming very familiar or becoming thorough with your material. Be absolutely confident with your material. Become familiar and become absolutely confident with your material. Know your material inside out. I'm not even for a moment suggesting that you memorize your entire presentation verbatim. What I'm saying, on the other hand, is that you become familiar or you become confident with your key points. Consider having all of your preparations done at least 12 to 24 hours before you're scheduled to come up on stage and speak. Before you actually come up on stage and start your presentation, anticipate a few questions which your audience may ask of you, and thoughtfully prepare a few answers. Above all, practice. Yeah, I'm talking about practice. And practice hard, and practice out loud. So how can we do this? Where do you start? Do a table read. We see actors from theater, films, and television, especially people from theater, do what is known as a table read. These actors follow a very simple yet effective exercise. They sit together around a table and start reading out their lines out loud. So why is this so effective? When you say your words out loud, your mouth is getting familiar with the words that you're saying. And as your brain hears these words, your brain is getting familiar with hearing those words. And when everything is put together, you become more confident. And this is, I think, one special instance or one admissible instance where people should be allowed to enjoy hearing their own voices. So I think that is a point to keep in mind. Personally, I like to use stories or anecdotes or bullet points to illustrate my presentation. And I like to speak as though I'm speaking to one person. When I see my words on my laptop or on a piece of paper, and when I hear my own words, from somewhere I get a newfound energy to come and deliver my lines, and more often than not, I'm able to deliver a presentation without too many hiccups. Record your practice session. The more you practice and record your own work, the better you will get. I have so many people with whom I collaborate with, and one of the first things I've insisted is that they need to record their practice sessions, and I think one candidate who can give us some background on that is Anjali. Could you come up here very quickly, please? Thank you. Give Anjali a hand very quickly. How did recording the session, viewing it and reviewing it help you?
It started when I collaborated with Suresh, and I started practicing. Earlier I used to do it in front of mirror, but he told me to see as an audience in a front camera of my phone, and I started talking and giving my speeches and recording that and sending to Suresh. And then he told me to correct it where I am taking pauses and why I'm not standing properly and why I'm going here and there and when I'm feeling very nervous. So he told me to calm down, take a proper pause and talk like you are talking with the audience. Don't be afraid. This is what he told me, and I keep doing it, and gradually I just picked it up because of Suresh. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, so recording your performance. See, I understand that this is pretty basic because most of the people here are already established Toastmasters, so it might seem a little basic, but nevertheless, this is a presentation on going speechless in the spotlight. So I think these are some of the elements which need to be said, however proficient one might be as a speaker. Then we come to point number 3, which is create value. Create value, not perfection. Focus on making a connection with your audience. Try not to worry whether your audience is judging you or how they are going to perceive you. Sometimes we worry too much, you know. We worry a lot. We worry, am I standing confidently? Am I moving around too much? Is my diction and pronunciation correct? Am I smiling enough? Do I look scruffy? In my case, it's always, do I look scruffy enough? So once you start shifting your energy outwards and try to focus on your audience and try and establish or try and find out how to make a deeper connection, this will help you stay relaxed and go through your presentation with a lot of ease. It's also it would also be a good idea to find out beforehand, or at least during the presentation, about what your audience is thinking, what are they saying, what are they feeling. Matthew is one example where he reads the audience like a book, so he knows what's going on and he adjusts his presentation because he reads the audience. So I think that is an essential skill to cultivate to move on as speakers. So it is getting to understand. Here again, I have to connect back to the point I made earlier. It's all about your audience. It's not about you. So if you care about your audience, they will care about you. Now, if you ask some people here, the guests introduce themselves. How many of us can recall any guests here? I know a person here who will recall every guest's names who have been mentioned. That is because people who can remember the guests, I know this is Dr. Suchitra, I know a few others. That is because I knew them. So it is important to focus your attention on your audience and find out what they want. It's important to do that, and there are very few people who actually care about the audience. All they're doing is, all they care about is how they are coming across. Okay, will they laugh at my jokes? Okay, that's a major concern. So you just get caught up in that. So keeping your attention or keeping your focus on your audience will actually help you get out of your own way and make the presentation all about your audience. If we prioritize discovering the needs of our audience beforehand and find out how our knowledge and our expertise and our ideas can be of some help to them, then that would be a nice trick to learn. when you know that you have the ability to help someone, what happens? What happens when you know that you have the ability to help someone? You will be able to stay present in the moment. Yeah, Matthew, you wanted to say something?
No.
Yeah. What happens? You will be able to stay present in the moment and make your presentation all about your audience. It's as simple as that. So when you do that, you're actually shifting the focus away from yourself and putting it onto the audience. When we get caught up in about how we are coming across or how our audience is perceiving us, we are actually missing out on an opportunity to give our audience something really valuable because we are focusing on wrong things. All right, can we have the next slide, please? Am I speaking too fast? Yeah, it's okay. I did say jokes go dry because people get nervous, but I have this nasty habit of moistening my throat every now and then because I do have a weak voice, so which is why I need to have a sip of water every now and then. Okay, the next point number 4 is own the tone. Own the tone. Even if you've done all your preparation, done your research, practiced your line, rehearsed your delivery and your messaging, there's still every chance that you may go blank and have a complete brain fade in front of an audience. There is a possibility. A key tip to remember here is that you and you alone set the tone for this moment. Speaking in public is so much like follow the leader. If you act like it's not a big deal, your audience will follow your lead. On the other hand, if you focus on your mistake, your audience will focus on it too. So if you can smile and stay present in the moment and simply say something like, looks like I've completely lost my train of thought. Can someone help me out here, please? Can someone remind me what my last point was? This will demonstrate your humility. It will also convey to your audience that you care about them. And it will show that you have the confidence to continue on from that small aberration, that mental aberration, pick up things and go on. It shows that you have the confidence to ask for help, the courage to ask for help, even when you have a meltdown in front of a room full of people. So that is a strong trait to ask instead of just, sitting back. I want to recall 2 incidents which happened in this very same room. Two of my dearest friends and members of long standing in this club did have a meltdown. One of them was Lakshmi and the other was Boniface. And when Lakshmi had that awkward moment, don't get me wrong, I've already taken their permission to talk about this incident. So I'm not, it won't be a jolt for them. So when Lakshmi had that setback, Matthew was the chief evaluator, I distinctly recall that, and he actually praised her for not quitting and going back and sitting down and saying, okay, we'll do this another day. She stood her ground, gathered up the thoughts, picked up things, and went on. The same thing happened to Bonnie. And this was during his first meeting as president. He had just taken over from the previous president. And he had a brain fade. He got overwhelmed with the sense of occasion. And he was stuck. But he too stood his ground. But I can tell you something, guys. I don't sit in the front rows. I normally sit somewhere in the middle or right at the back. But I can tell you something, that had I been sitting here in front, I would have come up and given you a hug, because that was the kind of connect which you made with the audience by showing your vulnerability. You did that so well. So I know it's too much water has flown under the bridge. You're not those same speakers you were then. You've come far, far away. But then I think that deserves an applause. It will also give me a it will also give me a chance to have a sip of water while you're clapping. Right. I want the timer to time me also, please. The time is 25, so just show me the amber at 20. I hope to finish before 20, but right. Just remember that there are 3 key audience factors consistently at play as you speak. A, they believe that you're the expert. Honor their belief with the kind of research you do, the kind of preparation you do, and the kind of earnestness you want to project. B, they have invested their time, and they've come here to listen to you. And they want you and this whole experience to succeed. Just know that your audience is on your side. The audience will always cheer for an underdog and will jump in to help you if you have the courage to ask them to help you. Just remember that. And point number 3, even if you've missed out a few lines or even forgotten huge chunks from your presentation, your audience will not know. You don't know how much I've missed. Anyway, so your audience will not know. But just in case you think that you've really forgotten something, or your blunder or your lapse is too huge and obvious, then own up to that mistake. Own up to that mistake. They will appreciate you and your realness even more if you can make the audience your hero. You will feel the difference. Own the moment, share it with them, have a laugh about it when it's appropriate. Doing this will actually help you dispel your speaking anxiety. Then we come to the last and final point. How are we doing on time, Saga?
Another 3 minutes.
Okay. 3 minutes for 20. Okay. Can we have the last slide, please? Convey credibility before vulnerability. Convey credibility before vulnerability. What does it even mean, convey credibility before vulnerability? Yeah. Convey credibility before vulnerability. What does it even mean? You can be in an extremely vulnerable position when you forget your lines and lose your place in front of an audience. You feel that the entire room is staring at you and they're making an assessment of who you are. This means it is time for you to own up to your imperfections. In social psychology, Malvina, you're a psychologist. Correct me if I go wrong. In social psychology, there is a term known as the pratfall effect. Can we have this slide? People know what it is. In social psychology, there is a term, you can take it off now. In social psychology, there is a term known as the pratfall effect. The pratfall effect states that people who are seen or considered to be extremely proficient and established as speakers, they're found to be more likable when they come up on stage and they do something vulnerable. When a speaker is seen as someone who has a reputation for delivering interesting speeches and presentation, or is already seen as an authority on a particular subject, or has the respect of his or her audience beforehand, and then that person comes on stage and does something vulnerable, like say dropping these notes all over the place, or knocking over the microphone, or tripping on the carpet and falling down, or sometimes even forgetting the lines and going blank. Will such a vulnerability ever be beneficial to them? according to social psychology? Yes, it does. It is very helpful. So actually, there is a flip side to the platform effect also. Now we have seen speakers who do not invest time or take the trouble to prepare or rehearse, or they don't want to put out too much. They want an easy way out. So they come up here, they start, and as usual they blabber something and go back and take a seat. And they do this for a week in and week out and say that I've been a Toastmaster for this many years and things like that. But they're the same person who delivered the icebreaker 13 years back. Till now they haven't made any progress at all. So the pratfall effect can work in a reverse way. So if such a person comes on stage and he momentarily forgets his lines and he says something like, guys, I completely forgot all my lines. Can you help me? This is going to backfire. This is going to backfire. It's not going to draw your audience closer to you. It will actually create a distance because they know that you're not giving enough. When all else fails, slow down. Slow down and take a deep breath. Sometimes we forget to breathe. When we come up on stage, we forget to breathe. If you're nervous, take that deep breath and if you're nervous, and take that deep breath, and if you think that you're racing through your delivery, slow down and pause. Take that pause. Sometimes that silence can create a powerful realness to your presentation. So learn to use the power of the pause. It'll also give you some time to gather your thoughts together. Instead of worrying about how you're coming across, double down on showing your good intention and your good value by focusing on your presentation with your preparation and the research which you've done. Try to put that out to your people. And when you're able to do that, chances are that your audience won't even notice that you missed your mark in the first place. So I'll wrap up with a quick summary. We looked at some possible reasons as to why we tend to forget our lines and go blank. We also reviewed a few techniques and tools available to us to how to overcome or prevent forgetting our lines and going blank. And we discussed some ways in which we can recover quickly in case we have a meltdown. We checked out the potential benefits of implementing these strategies which I just suggested to you and how we can use it in our future presentations. I hope that I've been able to provide some useful insights on how to overcome our speaking anxieties, and I hope that the information which I've shared with you will come in handy when you yourself go out and try to do your next presentation. I'll leave you with a quotation by Mark Twain, and Mark Twain said, and I quote, "Courage is not the absence of fear, it is actually the power to overcome it," unquote. So ladies and gentlemen, let us all find the courage to overcome our speaking anxieties sooner, much rather than later. Toastmaster.
So, I request everyone give a big round of applause. Really wonderful sessions, valuable for this one. Public speeches, there is a lot of things we learn this session. So, now with this, I extend my gratitude to everyone here who are participated, whom